everybody for joining. So today, essentially, I'm going to be walking through what the GTI offering is for shared services and kind of discuss what that looks like. But before I start, a little bit about August Schell. We are a value-added reseller, essentially a cybersecurity engineering company. And what we do is we essentially help public sector customers with their solutions and technology to help them enable them and secure against current threats. A little bit about myself, my background. I am the Chief Information Officer for August Schell. I sometimes support our customers, but my background, I came out of NSA, United States Marine Corps. I worked on cyber threat hunting for close access attacks. So essentially think of nation state level attacks where the attackers have a ton of resources and they are extremely persistent. So I'm going to kick into what is CISA Shared Services. CISA Shared Services is essentially a free offering paid for by CISA. It is a no-cost premium, essentially feed for GTI that allows your organization to leverage kind of the free licensing that is being provided by CISA. GTI is one of the, I would say, probably the premier threat intelligence platforms available today. And essentially what it does allow you to also do is, again, leverage that API via the licensing for your own network infrastructure. So, one of the things I'm going to talk about today is how that network infrastructure can leverage kind of the threat intelligence that you're getting from GTI and why you should consider, integrating it into your security program. So a little bit about kind of how do I participate in CISA Shared Services. One of the ways that you participate is through, sorry, I had a little issue with my video there. One of the ways that you participate is you contact the CISA team or you contact the Google team. So I have some contacts up there. Aaron or Anthony from Google are great. They'll get your organization onboarded, identify if you're eligible for CISA Shared Services, GTI licensing, and they will help you through that process. Again, and there's also, because it's a CISA program, there's a CISA email that you can also contact, and they will put you in touch essentially with the Google team. So either route works. If you'd rather go the official way through Google or CISA, up to you and up to your organization. So future GTI shared services events. We're doing a Google in-person workshop next week, actually, June 17th. If you'd like to come in, we're going to do a little bit of more of a scenario-based training, run through the platform a little deeper. It's a full day. Recommend you join if you can. And then we're going to have another webinar in July, a little more advanced from today. Today's the introduction, kind of what is GTI, what is the shared services GTI offering. And then next month in July, we're going to also do a in-person workshop in Boulder, Colorado. So, and a webinar in August. So if you're interested in any of those events, just continue to follow up and reach out to any of the individuals that have contacted you thus far to get you signed up for this webinar. So what is, and this is probably why most of you are here. You weren't there to hear me talk about what is the shared services program and kind of, Google and the events that we're doing, but what is GTI? So essentially kind of just highlighting like why I think GTI is a great platform and why I think the intelligence should be leveraged across your organization, especially with this offering from CISA, because it's at no cost to you, is you can leverage it across multiple aspects of your security stack. So everyone from the CISOs to the CROs to leadership, any key stakeholders, understanding trends and the analysis of kind of threat actors that are targeting your organization. What are my threats? Why should I care? How advanced are they? This is all relevant information to leadership. Threat hunting and red teams. Those that are, this is what I used to do, threat hunting on networks for nation state level adversaries. It does require you to have some sort of background if it's going to drive those threat hunting engagements. You need to know where the threat actor might be, because you're essentially making a hypothesis and you're trying to either you're really just trying to confirm your hypothesis that that threat actor is in the environment. And if you don't understand how that threat actor operates, then you're not going to understand where to look for that threat actor in the environment. And then red teams, attack emulation. The days of, I think, just social engineering and just, every pen test in a red team just does the physical access. Those days are kind of, I would hopefully say they're over, because nation state level adversaries and those that are likely targeting you don't need to go knock on your door anymore. They can, get into your network other ways. So making sure that your red teams understand how your adversaries, especially those that are targeting you, do so, also important. IT operations, security architecture, pretty self-explanatory. It's probably most of you are here from those teams. Vulnerability management, prioritizing those vulnerabilities that are currently being exploited by the attackers that are targeting you is pretty important. And incident response and SOC and detection deployment. Again, both of those are kind of bread and butter of where threat intelligence sits. So just as a reminder, I have an Intel background, and from one of the things, this reminder is information is just information until there's analysis put onto it, and then it becomes intelligence. And so that's really kind of what you're getting with Google Threat Intelligence, right? You're taking Mandiant's frontline expertise and their threat research and what they're finding on their IR engagements, and they're bringing that into a platform where you can have access to that. Finding those IOCs, finding those that threat actor geopolitical information, interacting with those threat actors, that's where Mandiant excels. And then bringing in VirusTotal. It's literally the world's largest malware and database kind of community corpus of IOCs. I'm sure all you know what VirusTotal is. And then additionally, something that doesn't get talked about is Google's infrastructure and kind of what they've been doing protecting consumers. I'd imagine most of you probably have some sort of Gmail account. You use Chrome or some Chromium-based web browser. You're probably using Google's infrastructure, to communicate, because they have a ton of infrastructure. And they have been doing this for a long time, and they have a ton of telemetry that helps to feed in to what is now Google Threat Intelligence. All right, so again, just kind of wrapping it up, right? Highlighting, it's combining that frontline, which is the Mandiant, the curated open source from the VirusTotal and the crowdsourced intelligence, and it's kind of with Google's insights and bringing that all together and giving you a one platform. And something too that Google does that is very unique to other threat intelligence providers is they are also the creators of Gemini, and so they have a specific LLM or LM language model that they use with GTI, and it's SecLM. And so this is a security-based language model that essentially allows you to, and we dig into the platform, kind of communicate with it in that natural language style. And so today I'm going to go through it. There's, we're going to go through the one's audio, I think is, okay. We're going to go through kind of the functionality of it, threat landscape. Think of threat landscape as where you bring in your intelligence requirements, right? Intelligence requirements are kind of what you identify as important to your organization, what makes your organization unique, the things that you're going to be able to put into the platform to help tailor and curate the findings or the results to your organization. Because the threats that target, say, a civilian agency are going to be different than the threats that target a bank or the DoD, they're all going to be different. So again, taking that into account, you're able to modify the platform to show you what is relevant to you, and that's within the threat landscape and the threat profiles. We go through reporting, and this is where we have those curated reports, right? It talked about that. We have the Mandiant team of analysts, or now it's the Google threat, the GTI analysts. But again, it's bringing that that pedigree into the platform, and we'll dig into that. And then detection rules. It does great at giving you detection rules for the IOCs that it's identifying, whether they're Yara, Sigma, or other IDS rules. And then we have the vulnerability kind of Rolodex, which is the CVEs. Are they currently being exploited in the wild? Are they on the CISA KEV? Sometimes something might be not on the CISA KEV, but it's being exploited or it's being seen. So that's something that's important to know, especially prioritizing your vulnerability patching, because can't do it all at once. Otherwise, I mean, yeah, I've been there and seen that. I know that's a huge friction point. But all right, so additionally, there's some capability that I really like about the platform, and this is focused around private scanning. I'm going to dig into that, kind of show you where. So just kind of a little bit of background. There was recently a I think it was either a Hugging Face or it was another LLM was leveraged by a piece of malware. And I think some researchers out of NYU actually found it. And the way that those researchers found that piece of malware, and again, don't quote me on it being Hugging Face that the malware was using, but maybe it might have been ChatGPT. But the way they found it was via VirusTotal. So they found the signature there, and then that's when they publicly disclosed it. And actually what it ended up being is, and I might have that mixed around, it might have been researchers at NYU that developed it, but it was actually came out of a research project and it was uploaded into VirusTotal. So with that in mind, right, if you're facing a novel threat, if you're looking at some sort of piece of malware that maybe you discovered through other means that you don't want to disclose to the threat actors that they've been discovered, or you don't want to share it out publicly, we have private scanning. And that's where kind of, I'll dig into that. We can do that with files, we can do that with URLs, and we can interact in a sandbox. And then we have retro and live hunt. And again, this is within the kind of that VirusTotal corpus. You get similarity and indicator commonalities. YAR rules, if you're not familiar with them, I definitely recommend kind of digging into that. Today, we're not going to really dig into YAR rules at all. That would be more towards kind of a workshop. But then we have the threat graph and some custom IOC streams. And then one of the other things that GTI does offer, and again, dark web threat monitoring, attack surface management is something that you may see now on there, but it might not be there in the future. But that is also something that is in the platform. All right, so what is the global visibility? I talked about all of that visibility, right, from Google themselves. But essentially, there's 20 plus years of observations from Google, right? Going back to 2004, you could just, look at, there's 5 billion Google safe browsing user devices being protected right now, 2.5 billion active Gmail inboxes. So that is where we're getting kind of all of that, that Google telemetry that's being added on, that was adding more value than maybe just the Mandiant or VirusTotal offerings in the past. And again, intel sources, I love intelligence sources. Multiple source reporting is something that's important to me, right? If, just as an example, if I'm providing intelligence to some, or information to somebody, and I'm talking to five different organizations, and all 5 of those organizations come together and they all seem to think that they're seeing the same thing, but they're all talking to me. They just don't realize that that's single source reporting. Instead, I want them to, ideally they would be talking to different people and make that assessment of what is happening based off of multiple sources. So, looking at that, what do you get in GTI, right? You get the threat insights from Google. You get the open source intelligence of those uploading to VirusTotal. You get the frontline intelligence from the Mandiant side, the human curated intelligence from the Mandiant side, and the crowdsourced intelligence. And something too of value is the human curated. I know a lot of teams don't have the resources for dedicated intelligence analysts, but that's where kind of Google's team comes in. Is they have the CTI analysts that have been tracking. They have the threat actors in China or Russia or you name it. They've been tracking them for many years, and that's maybe where you can leverage that capability for your own security program. All right, so again, the core competencies and the key areas of leadership, automated malware analysis. This is something that VirusTotal does. Google's helped to build into the platform. Again, you get that tactical and technical intelligence, right? The GTI Mandiant team, on the front lines with victims of attacks and helping them work through those issues. And then you get the kind of machine readable. That's really important to me. I love automation. I love integration. I love it where I can have systems kind of make decisions that are easy decisions, right? Based off of known threats. So I can kind of reduce the workload on my teams. Industry sharing and knowledge aggregation, right? So you do get some sharing. Additionally, there's some sharing capability that I want to show when it comes to IOC collections. So you can collaborate within your team and kind of put all that together, and then an investigative workbench, right? Being able to dig in and kind of dig deeper on some of these things, and then overlay that with kind of the human expertise and analysis. Kind of talked about that. Operational strategic intelligence. Again, they've been doing it for a long time. That's why they're part of the Google team now. And you get kind of something that's a really kind of holistic platform for threat intelligence. So again, the ML, Google bolting on the ML and AI, the speed and scale at which they're seeing the indicators across the globe, operationalizing that, timeliness, and then being able to search it in a platform that actually makes sense. I mean, it does help that the creators of web search that all of us have been using for decades has created a platform for us to search for threat intelligence. All right, so I'll kind of dig into that, but something else too, if I don't get into it, but essentially you get AI assessments. Just wanted to call that out. It actually takes all that information together and kind of builds a quick AI assessment of what it means. Sometimes they're human curated assessments, and it does show you which is which. So I'm going to get into the demo now, kind of show the platform. All right, so essentially when you log in, you're going to log into virustotal.com. It's going to look like VirusTotal, but it's going to say Google Threat Intelligence. So when you first log in, here's kind of the older, again, VirusTotal call out, but you can do a couple things from here. You can do essentially a search here of, here's some different searches that are pre-populated that you can do. You can you can build a search or you can search from in the window. You can upload a file. This file can be done with check with our intelligence. And essentially, if you do it this way, then you upload a file and it does it on the public corpus. If you do private scanning, it'll take you to the private scanning window, and then you can upload that file there. But Here's something that's relatively new with the platform, those that have maybe used GTI in the past. Here I can search and do it based off of kind of if I was interacting with, say, Gemini. One of the ways that I remind my security researchers to think about this is when interacting with it, defining who you are. So if you're a security researcher or you're in a leadership role, and what do you want it to tell you, or what do you want it to look for, and then kind of what's the output. It'll help generate reports, it'll help generate a brief, it'll provide you an analysis, it'll do many different things. Really, the imagination of you is kind of the limitation of this platform, of this capability. Again, I can't speak to how valuable it is that Google has Gemini, and they have a robust large language model that kind of supports the capability that they brought into GTI. So here's kind of one I had done in the past. I told it I'm a SOC analyst, generate a report concerning UNC 2926 targeting critical infrastructure in the last 12 months in an exportable format. So when I click on that, here is kind of what it populated. Sometimes it's hit, sometimes it's missed. If I wanted a CSV, I should tell it create a CSV with the IOCs relating to this threat actor. I could do that, or I can search the platform. So that's a little bit about kind of the agentic or AI capability of the platform. Again, recommend digging in and just really kind of stretch and push the limits of it, because I promise that you'll find it pretty robust in comparison to just another chatbot. I am not a proponent of everybody saying that they throw AI into everything, and this did take a while for Google to roll out. So my landscape, when I go into my landscape, this actually grabs your organizational profile, and it's going to pivot over for a second. Okay, so it's going to actually create its own profile based off of who you are. And you can see this is curated by Gemini. That means it wasn't curated by a human. And this kind of pulls out everybody and everything in the organization that you're a part of. So kind of cool. It's starting to get fleshed out more. You can edit the profile, kind of refine some things, but really just kind of see where the platform is going. And this is where we get into, I was talking about the Intel requirements. And so here we are in the managed threat profiles. And when I create a threat profile, I'll be able to get a kind of a global landscape of my organization, or really what I'm trying to do. And I can go in and I can create a threat profile, but I'm just going to go into this one and kind of customize it and look at it. And essentially what I did was I created one for, this is based off of threats impacting EDU organizations within the United States. And I can select the industry. And so depending on kind of where your agency operates or your organization operates, you can select kind of, what you want the platform to prioritize as far as who threat actors are targeting. Target regions, so maybe you have offices in another country, you can select those. Source regions, so this is essentially the threat actor sources. So if you're more concerned about, say, the Russian threat or the Chinese threat, or maybe there's something that's causing you to be concerned about a different threat actor located, maybe Lazarus Group is a threat actor that you're really concerned about, you can actually select a region of the world and then pick that source. So that's something to think about. You don't have to select a region. You don't have to select a target region. You could be as broad as you want, but something to kind of keep in mind is the more broad that you are, the more broad that threat intelligence is going to come across. And when I show that on the threat landscape. Malware roles, maybe you're really concerned about an archiver, maybe espionage is a concern, or ransomware is a concern. You can select that as well. Maybe you'd want to keep it broad. And then threat actor motivations, again, back to kind of espionage, financial gain, hacktivism, depending on what you want to see, depend on kind of what it's going to show you. So I'm just going to, I can click save that threat profile or cancel. But if I click on it, it's going to take me to a visualization, and I can pop this visualization out and kind of show what this does. So this is going to give me kind of a hot, cold list of what's relevant and what's recent, right? I see that we have relevancy and then the frequency, right? So the higher level, higher up it is on the global frequency means how kind of frequent they are, the attackers are, and then the relevancy is we start to get closer to kind of what's relevant to what you've scoped out in your threat profile. And you can have multiple threat profiles. You don't have to just use one threat profile. I recommend an organization use multiple. You as an individual user, when you get access to it, if you're a threat intelligence analyst or a SOC analyst or a threat hunter, or red team, you can create your own threat profiles. So you can start to look for the threat actors that are relevant to you that you care about. I can view this in an IOC stream, and that IOC stream can be used for other things. I can export all the IOCs relating to this or the identifiers, or I can share it out to someone on my team or another agency or organization. It's going to give the most recent reporting relating to kind of what helped populate that. And I love kind of, I love to see the reporting, right? That's important to me, because sometimes some threat intelligence platforms that you log into or you hop on might tell you, make this assessment that, this is happening, and you dig into it and it's a one line on a forum post. And so kind of thinking about, well, how did you make that assumption? Where did you come to that conclusion? Google kind of pulls all that out and kind of shows you what they're using to make that assessment. And so, it gets the description. This is a widespread phishing campaign, and gives you the threat actor. You can see what regions they're targeting, what industries they've targeted, when were they first seen, or this campaign specifically, but this is a campaign, and it has it here. And it breaks down into malware campaigns, threat actors, and you can, again, go further down. What are the threat actors' actions? We can look at the techniques of the threat actor, and you can basically pivot into, essentially, as I dig into the platform, I just want to highlight, you can pivot really anywhere within the platform. So if you see something, you can always find more. And here's the associated reporting that I was talking about. This is what I really like. And we can see that it's provided by Google Threat Intelligence. Sometimes it might be a security partner of Google's, but this one is Google's Threat Intelligence. And when I go into it, here's where I get kind of a little more information. And here's the content, right? Here is that finished intel. And this is where you get the human curated kind of analysis, and your teams might not have the resources to be as knowledgeable and make these assessments. And so this is where kind of, again, leaning on the GTI platform can be really, really beneficial. And here we get the analyst comments. So these are actual analyst comments about what the threat actor is doing, and they have more. Again, they have a pretty good background in the threat actor or the region or the piece of malware or campaigns. So what you're getting is, again, that expertise in that specific threat actor in that specific region, and it's coming to you kind of in a pretty tightly packaged platform. So, again, this is where being able to build that executive report. And when you ask, say, back on the kind of agentic portion, when you ask it to build a report on something, say I asked it to build a report on this specific campaign, and I wanted an executive summary, this is where it's going to pull all that information from for you. So I'm going to go back to where I was. All right, so we have the different campaigns on those threat actors on that activity, and then we can go into activity timeline, and this is where we see kind of it's all thrown into a timeline. This one's pretty busy. You can kind of zoom in or zoom out, depending on what you're looking for. Most aren't as busy as this. I will say that, but this is a pretty busy. And again, going back to the kind of broadness of the requirements that I put in, this is what I get, right? And the more refined and more detailed that I scope down that threat profile, hopefully, the smaller and less busy these visualizations are going to get. You get the history of the activity, and it kind of breaks it all down for you. And you can pivot into any one of these, are all hyperlinks. And then here's the reporting side. So you can just go through what are the most recent reports. I can sort them by different things, different topic areas, different regions. And again, this is going to change depending on what the results are. If I wanted to see something that was published within the last week, I could ask it. And here we go. We have a report that was published or updated a day ago. And this is threat actors exploited red cap servers in the US medical community. You can see that I was a little broad with my intel requirements or my threat profile, because I'm getting medical community attacks in supposed to be an EDU, but it could be relevant if you're, for an organization that was, maybe it's a university that's has a medical school. And then actions, so we can have it do a couple different things. If I run this now, it's probably going to take a long time because there's a ton of methods and behaviors that it's going to pull from, because there's a lot there. But if I had it scoped down, I could run this and essentially, it's telling me it's only going to do the first 40 recommended threats for the threat profile, but it'll look for display the TTPs of the threat actors and where they've seen activity align. And I'll dig into that here in a little bit. All right, so that's the threat profile portion. With the threat, with your organization, and I recommend that if you're an analyst, you definitely kind of work on tuning that, because that's going to be really powerful. But as you start to dig in more, and maybe you're interested in a certain threat actor, we'll just go with Mustang Panda. We'll select this threat actor. They were this was updated as of 2 hours ago. So here's where we can go into the threat actor's information, and it makes those correlations that were hard historically to do. Before, you could bring up VirusTotal and it would tell you this is malicious. Sure. Well, what else? What are the other IOCs related to it? Who is this? Are these IOCs, attributable to, or maybe they're not attributable to anybody who's suspected? And when Google looks at categorizing these threat actors, there's FIN groups, which are financial groups. There's the kind of cybercrime groups, the APTs, and then you have the UNCs, which the UNC groups are the unclassified. These are the groups that they haven't really been able to identify that this is truly a group, or really nail down the attribution, but they're not going to let kind of that threat intelligence go unnoticed if they haven't been able to attribute that intelligence or that information. So again, gives a brief description of the threat actor, all their different aliases. And I know this is important. I was working with actually a Marine Corps team, and they were having issues because they couldn't correlate. They would read a report, for instance, if they're reading something on Talos's page about Mustang Panda, but they're reading something on proof points about TA 416 and Palo on PK plug. How do they make that correlation that they're all the same threat actor? And this is kind of where it brings it all together, because again, knowing that most organizations have multiple threat intelligence feeds. So just something to think about when looking at the platform. So if I were to search for Red Delta, because that's what I found in another platform, in the Recorded Future platform, it would still bring me to this same threat actor. Source region, we could see that this is a Chinese threat actor that's focused on espionage, which is probably, I would say, well, I was had a counterintelligence background. To me, that's biggest threat that I cared about, but maybe it's not for you. But again, just digging in further, who are they targeting? These are the different regions. It seems like they're pretty indiscriminate on who they're targeting, but the fact that it's targeting the U.S. Is important for us, and why it likely is a relevant threat. And then we have the targeted industries, and again, their activity and associated reporting and campaigns. So again, kind of it's going to allow you to go through the same way that it displays the threat actors. It's going to display different pieces of malware or tools. And as you dig in, though, I want to go back to this, though. I do want to show this on the threat actors. So let me go back to Mustang Panda, and I can go into, IOCs. And well, there is association, so I can see all the malware and things that are associated, things that it's tied to this threat actor. But really, IOCs to me is kind of another big one. I could export kind of any of these IOCs in some sort of CSV or STIX feed or a JSON, and then I can import that into a tool set to help me kind of make those correlations or identify if the threat actors have been active in my environment, or if there's any of those IOCs in my environment. We get the commonalities, different detections from the IOCs, and then and then telemetry. This may take a while, but remember I said that when you make a submission to VirusTotal, that it does essentially it populates on there if you don't do private scanning. The same goes if you do a search of the IOC in whether it's a URL or a file. It's going to show that you did the search in addition to uploading that file to the platform. So when doing those searches or those queries, I definitely recommend using private scanning if it's more sensitive. But this kind of gives you an indication of how active the queries have been in different regions of the world or with these submissions. So you have lookups and you have submissions. One thing to know is that it doesn't give attribution outside of the region for the lookups. It's got the countries, but that's about it. So just something to keep in mind with the platform. Don't want you going around and maybe not understanding the way that works. And then we have the different rules. We talked about this. We have YAR rules, Sigma rules, and IDS rules that are built based off of this threat actor. And then TTPs. This is where I was telling you, it maps it to the MITRE ATT&CK framework, and this is where the indicators have been essentially mapped to that. So again, if you're a threat hunter or a red teamer, and you're trying to emulate some of these attacker techniques, then you can or identify some of the attackers' techniques in the environment. This is a great page to go through, and something you can download it as well. And then reporting on the threat actor. And then there's community notes. I don't think I've hardly ever seen community notes posted here, but if that's something you want to share with the world, feel free. But generally, that's not something that I've seen used frequently. And again, I can download the IOCs here, or I can follow that threat actor or share to my team. So back to malware. Again, malware and tools. You get kind of the same thing. You get the IOCs, you get the roles, you get the TTPs, the associations, all the reporting, and then and any other associated malware as well. So if there's something that maybe there's a tool, and some things you have to take with a huge grain of salt, because I go into some tools and it says, well, they use FileZilla, and and they use PuTTY. So again, this may go back to, you may see a threat actor that uses all kind of standardized tools that you use in your environment. So it makes it a little more difficult to detect. All right, and then campaigns. These are essentially observed activity from an engagement or observed activity from a certain event or just a threat actor's campaign essentially across the threat landscape. So from here, you can scope down again. Really, it's really customizable to help with your queries. And then IOC collections. This is something that I harp on. I used to not harp on it as much, but I definitely recommend it. If you're creating, say you have a list of IOCs that aren't populated anything today, right? And you want to do, you want to keep track of those, and you kind of want to keep track of them in the platform to see if there's anything that populates relating to that. If there's any associations, maybe not today, but there may be associations in the future. You can do that with a IOC collection. So here you have, and I'm really glad that they added this, because this used to not be there, but it tells you if it's a public one. So I'm going to change it to private, only your group. So when it says only your group, that's everybody that's on your team that's in the platform. So if your team has, I don't know, 50 users, and you want to share that IOC collection with the 50 users, with the other 50 users, to be available to them in their queries and their searches, even in the service accounts that are used for your SIM tool or your SOAR platform, you can do that. And why is that important, right? Why would I do that? Well, one, say I find threat actor activity and it's suspicious and it's on one segment of my network, and I want to continue to monitor for that activity or that IP address in other segments of the network. And I'm already ingesting the IOC collections as a review or for enrichment in my SIM. I now have the capability to build my own, essentially own detections and alerts on IOCs based off this platform, while also allowing me to correlate threat actor activity that may be discovered in the future relating to those IOCs. So something to keep in mind, or you can just create your own, because you're looking at, you want to kind of build your own IOC collection, and you're interested in, doing some more research on a threat actor, or you see some observable activity that you're not fully convinced that it's actually malicious. And again, you can dump in an XML, CSV, new line delimited. You can and just drag it in and drop it. You can put hashes, domains, IPs, or URLs, and you can just dump that in and create a list of your IOC collection. So what does an IOC collection look like? I'm going to go into this one. And essentially, it's just, this one's got a description that they put in. Hopefully, you would put a description in yours, what it is, so you remember it. And then it's got the list of IOCs. And this is where, again, I may just dump in a hash or a URL, and today there may be no association. In 6 weeks, there may be no association, but maybe in 6 months, there's an association. And now I have some historical activity or identifier that says, okay, well, I built this IOC collection. What are the other observables from this threat actor? And now I can pivot into, let's just say, let's go into this threat actor on 6671, and I can pull out other IOCs that maybe I hadn't detected yet, maybe file hashes, URLs, domains, IPs, right? But generally, if your SIM is monitoring or integrated in with and doing these queries, then you would have detected it from the front. But if it's something like a file hash, might not be doing that. So again, allows you to pivot and dig deeper and learn more about the threat actors that are targeting your organization. All right, so that was, and then there's a GTI score. So when I go into this next part, and I'll go into, let me grab an IOC real quick. Copy that in. Be real careful not to paste that in my browser window. That's for later. And then I can see different countries and industries. If I want to focus on a specific country or industry, let's just focus on agricultural. I can pull out an industry snapshot, a country snapshot, and again, it's just pull out an industry. We get state-sponsored espionage, go figure, financial gain out of Russia and China and targeting the United States, Americas, West Europe, Denmark, Switzerland. Go figure. Who would have guessed that, right? All right, so let me roll into, so that's the global infrastructure. All right, I'm running up on time now. I have about 10 minutes, but I'm going to check with VirusTotal. And so this is where if I did the query that I was talking about, and I'm just going to paste that IP address in. It's going to count as a lookup. So I've essentially just created a new submission. It gives me a TI verdict. I don't know, and I've talked to the Google team. There is some secret sauce IP that's behind the scoring, but just know it's been pretty. I haven't seen it where it wasn't accurate. And here we get some different data about that IP address. Again, detections, what detected it. Maybe you have Juniper networks and it would be clean, or one of these other kind of providers for EDR. All right, and then details, a little bit of details about that that IP address, whether it's the last TLS certificate or we have the registration data, who is lookup, so you're not doing the who is lookup, and then a Google result on the IP address, and you can see it did use a Boolean search on Google for that IP address. So pretty cool, especially too when you start thinking about how threat actors are, pretty knowledgeable, and they're just going to pay for a Google ad. They may put some sort of flag or some sort of indicator in their malware, and they'll just pay for a Google ad. So if you search for this certain thing in a certain region, it's essentially the same thing that allows me to create a better mousetrap for a certain region of the world and see if it's even relevant or worth, what I need to do for my marketing or where I need to target. Same way a threat actor can identify if you've outed them or identified them in their network. Relations, again, downloadable files, URLs. It's kind of also gives the country, and then we have different associations where it's been identified in. And we can see that this is actually the campaign that I pulled it from, this IOC collection that I pulled it from. And then we have telemetry. Telemetry is the lookups, right? We can see that there was a lot of lookups on April 28th. So it sounds like they were probably pretty active that day. And we have we're going to have, once I leave this page, there'll be one on June 10th. All right, so that's the kind of IOC investigation, and you can do live hunt, retro hunt, diff hunts as well, using YARA roles. Recommend digging down into that, learning about YARA roles. They're really helpful because I'm not using a specific hash. I can now kind of create a more broad detection role that allows me to identify maybe a deviation in it. And something to think about as well, there was recently, or not recently, it was earlier last year, but a piece of malware that the threat actors were using Gemini to rewrite the source code every 30 minutes. So think about that from a perspective of a file hash. That file hash is going to change every 30 minutes. So good luck keeping track of that unless you're using something like YARA rules for other indicators. And then reports and analysis. This is just kind of the broad thing of kind of all the reports aggregated into one part of the platform. Threat graph. If you use threat graph, make sure it's private. Otherwise, everybody can see your threat graph. And then private scanning. This is where I wanted to dig in with I got 7 more minutes on this. I just want to show I can choose a file, right, from my system, but then I can configure that scan. I can do a live interaction in where I now have a sandbox. It's a Cape sandbox on Linux or Windows. I can pivot around. I can click on I can interact with the file. I can do different things that I normally would have to set up my own Cape sandbox, my own, my own network infrastructure, depending on how I wanted to lay it out. And Here's where the network infrastructure piece comes in. I can have it no internet, direct internet connection, simulated internet. WannaCry is a great example where someone I would want to maybe be able to, or Heartbleed, where I'd want to be able to modify that and be able to interact with it in different ways. If it's a piece of malware, routed through the Tor network, I can do that. I can use a different OpenVPN custom configuration. Maybe I have dignitaries that travel throughout the world, and maybe when they're a specific part of the world, I want to, I'm concerned about geofencing on some malware. I can create my own OpenVPN custom configuration and do that. I can route it through these different regions of the world: Chile, Germany, Japan, Singapore, US East, or the UK. I can select which locale or language the sandbox, and this is Windows only. So if I go Linux, it's not going to let you do that. If I wanted to have any command line arguments to use within the sandbox, I can do that because it doesn't allow you copy and pasting. And then if I want to retain it for a day or up to 28 days. 28 days is the max for the retention, but I could do that as well. And sometimes if I try and upload, say I try and upload a, actually I'm just going to go for, no, I don't want to download it now. I got 5 minutes. If say I try to upload a file that's already been reviewed by VirusTotal, or GTI, it'll tell me that I don't have to waste a private scan on that, and I could just go view that report. So then I could just pivot into that report instead of uploading the file, running the scan, and looking at it. And then I have URL, and again, oops, I finished that. Okay. And then the URL, again, very similar. I can modify the settings. I get a retention period. I can detonate. Oops, that was the malware. I can, again, give it a Zen sandbox where that's something that I don't interact with, or I can give it a Cape sandbox where I can interact with it. And then I can enable live interaction with the Cape sandbox. I can give it a timeout, 15 minutes. Say it's a URL that I want to go pivot around in. I want to go look around in, and or maybe it's a Tor. Tor IP, and on the Tor network, and I don't want to maybe go through my own, or I don't have the capability to do that within my network. I can use this platform to actually do that, and I'd get a 15-minute timeout. I can give it its own user agent. So say I wanted to see how it interacted with the user agent string showing up as an iPhone versus user agent string of it showing up as maybe a Chrome browser in Mac or Windows. I can do that. I can give it a custom user agent string. Say I want it to show up as like a VoIP phone. I could do these different things within this platform. Again, I get a search retention period and the storage region. So I'm just going to go into, let me go back into a, show you what one of these reports looks like, a piece of malware. Let me go into a piece of malware real quick. Let's go back into our Mustang Panda. Let me go into here, and I'm going to pivot into this. And this is where I get, well, it looks like it's, but I get, maybe I need to go to a different piece of malware. But essentially, I'll get the sandbox results when I look up a file. If I upload a file, let me actually do that real quick. Nope, I got 2 minutes. Can't do it. Okay. So recommend you go to the workshops. I got 2 minutes left. We'll dig deeper into the platform. We'll go into digital threat monitoring. We can see how we can monitor. We'll dig into vulnerability intelligence. Future webinars are going to cover kind of more in depth, but really wanted to dig into what is the platform, right? What am I getting? Why do I want to take the time to get onboarded, and just kind of, remove any doubt that there's a capability that you have available to you, that it's at no cost, that's already been funded by CISA, and who do you reach out to? And so I can't wholeheartedly recommend leveraging GTI within your environment through the CISA Shared Services and kind of getting those detections started as soon as possible. So thanks for the time today. I'll pass it back to Josh for any closing remarks. But again, thank you for the time.
Thanks, Mike. Really appreciate that. The only closing remarks we have is if anybody is interested in getting hands-on experience with GTI, we put the link for the workshop in the chat. Feel free to check it out and sign up if you're interested, or reach out to Google or August Schell if you have any questions. We appreciate everybody joining the webinar today and look forward to having you guys join our future ones. Thanks, everyone. Bye.